The Buffalo Bills have a lot of options when it comes to wide receiver in this year's 2024 draft. We've been saying all along that this wide receiver class is deep. And tonight, Jake and I are going to get into it and tell you just how deep it is. All that right after this. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Nickel City Rush Hour. Jake, my friend, we are T-minus 15 days to draft night. Are you ready, sir?
I am more ready than I've ever been, Mike. This is the most exciting draft in years for me as a Bills fan. Maybe even more exciting than the year that we drafted Josh Allen. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that might be the case.
The potential is there. It definitely is. So we're going to get into it. You know, Jake, I've been talking to you, and we keep saying this wide receiver class is so deep. But when we're talking on our shows, we're really only talking typically 3 to 5 guys. We don't talk about the 3 top guys up top because we don't feel like we have a shot at them. We're going to mention those today. And Jake, this thing, looking at it, 20 to 25 deep, where you could be happy to land one of these prospects. So we're going to get into it. We both came up with a list. It was pretty darn close. We're going to go off your list, and I'll chime in with some things as we go down this list. And we'll talk about some options too, because maybe I'll start with that, Jake. You know, one of the guys in the Discord, by the way, we have a Discord, a lot of great people there chatting it up like crazy. We have Bills threads, hockey threads, fantasy football threads. Check it out. It's in the description of the show here. It's absolutely free to join. So join us. We get late breaking news. Everybody, we're on different time zones. So people are like chiming in, hey, late breaking news. This just happened. And, one of the guys mentioned Gammo. He said, hey, what would you do? Would you want one of those top elite receivers? And there's probably 4 or 5 of them. And then there's just a small dip. He says, or would you trade back with that 28th pick? And Jake, I was doing a little research, and I'm like, man, there's some really good options to trade back. And let me just throw a few out before we get into the list. So you take our 28th pick, and I'm talking about trading down here. You take the 28th pick, and you trade it to the Cardinals. And you get their second-round pick 35. And then you get one of their third-round picks. Their 3 third-round picks. They have 3 picks in the third,
That's
Jake.
Wild. Yeah.
All we want is to get one of them for our 28th. So now you got to pick at 35, which is only 7 after us right now in that first round.
Yeah.
And then you get a nice one in the third round as well. We get that back. We don't have that this year. So you can also talk to the Commanders. They're in a similar situation where they have, multiple third round picks. And
multiple
they have
second round picks too.
Yeah. So you take their 36th in the second round, and you get one of their third round picks for your 28th. And boom, all of a sudden now we have 2 picks very high on the second round. We're up there. We're only like 7 or 8 spots, maybe 9 spots behind what we're going to draft. We have another second round, and then we have a third round that we really want. And then you have the potential to move up in any of those rounds if your guy's there. So I know you're not a fan of that, but Gamble asked that question in the Discord, and it really made me think. I'm like, you know what? Would I rather have like a Brian Thomas, or would I have 2 other of these receivers we're going to talk about, take 2 of them, and also take care of another position that we need to take care of in those first 3 rounds? Defensive tackle. I'm now on the edge as well, the edge need, that defensive line. Before we get into that, what do you think about that question?
I like the move. That wouldn't be bad at all. I mean, it definitely solves our issue of not having a third round pick because that gap between the second and then the fourth is a lot of picks. It goes from pick 60 to 128, I think it is, or 133. So that's quite a gap there of picks. Quite a long time that the Bills would have to wait until their next pick after the second round. So I like that idea, Mike. I think that's good, and it's not like you're moving down that much. So that would definitely be a case to move down. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I think someone else in the Discord said that Worthy and Frank. I've heard Franklin's at a private conversation or private workout already, but
Yeah.
also I'm hearing Worthy now. And
Yep.
Bill's bunker there. Good to see you out there, Jake.
Jake, good to see you,
He's
man.
saying
Yep.
Worthy in Buffalo today. Brett, good to see you out there. I mean, I love how he does a countdown there. He's like, because it says right in there, count it down with me. He's always got the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love it. Weston, always good to see you, man. Weston brings some good information in the Discord. I'm telling you, you're missing out if you're not in our Discord.
He does. Yeah.
Cam Lewis would be good Saber because he can't score or play defense. We have the Sabres Edge show going on as well. If you're a hockey fan, Timmy and Sam are really getting into it. They're a little heated tonight. Again, coming down to the end of the Sabre season. And again, just another disappointment. And then let's see here.
Brett.
What Brett say?
You shouldn't have, brother. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, buddy. And hope you're doing well. Brett, out of commission for a little bit. We're hoping to get him back on the Ruthless show and also on his show. We'd love to see him again. So thanks, sir. And then he's saying Bills are trading up for a top tier receiver. That's another option. And we'll talk about that. There's no way Brandon Beane is done making moves yet. So
agreed.
Into this list of 20. And then we're going to have some honorable mentions. And I'm sure the chat will also have some additional players. But dude, this thing, you could say 20 to 25 players. So let's start at the top because we haven't really talked about it. But Marvin Harrison Jr., Jake, I mean, he's the overwhelming favorite to be the top receiver taken off the board, a generational talent. His dad had a great bloodline as well. Marvin Harrison, the great Marvin Harrison, played for the Colts with Peyton Manning. And, he's so good, he didn't even have to show up for the combine. He's like, hey, my resume speaks for myself on the field. I don't need to go to that combine. But talk to us about Marvin Harrison, why he's that guy.
Yeah, so good. He actually opted out of working out at both the combine and his pro day.
Right.
But supposedly runs 4.39, Mike. That's just rumors. And that is electronic, too. So that means he is flying. At 6'3", 209, too, that's not bad at all whatsoever. He's a true junior. He comes in with, obviously the bloodlines, but I'll tell you what, he is a generational talent. In my opinion, he's the best prospect in this entire draft class, period. And listen, I know there's the talk of Malik Neighbors being a better prospect than he is, and he might go above Marvin Harrison Jr. I just don't see that happening. This guy is too damn good to pass up on. He's got route running. He's got great hands. He's great on all parts of the field, intermediary, short, deep, you name it. There's not a thing that this guy can't do. So you'd be a fool not to take him before Malik Neighbors, in my opinion. He is the best prospect in this entire NFL draft. Not just best receiver, best prospect, plain and simple.
I agree. I mean, he has 3 years experience, played for Ohio State. I'm totally with you. You know me. I mean, I'm always going to give the edge to a guy who's 6'3" over a guy who's 5'11". Malik Neighbors, he runs like a 4.41. I'm curious where they're getting that number because he for Marvin Harrison, because he didn't run the 40 in the combine or the pro day, so he must have did some private. I don't know how official those things are, so you just never know.
I actually, I just saw it on the NFL Draft Buzz website, and I'm like, that's interesting. 4.39. I'm not sure how they got that. It is marked as like unofficial, but I believe it. I mean, game speed definitely adds up. He looks like a fast receiver. He looks 4.3, high 4.3s to me. So the game speed and the 40 speed match up, it seems to be.
Yeah, and they're saying he's going to be one of the top 3 picks. I've seen him go as low as 5, but I mean, if you don't take him, in the top 3, I don't know what you're doing that night. I don't know what you're doing. You're missing out. All right, let's move on to the second guy, which I think we were both in agreement as well, and I think everybody is on the big boards, is Malik Neighbors, who you mentioned from LSU. He's got 3 years experience, 5'11", 200 pounds, runs a 4.41 40. And and both of these guys, talk about their splits a little bit. Their 10-yard split, it's a 1.56. So talk to us a bit about Malik. You just mentioned him a little bit, but
Mhm.
why is he worthy of the number 2 overall receiver?
So this is like the old comparison between Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So maybe Marvin Harrison is like Justin Jefferson. He's that good. And Jamar Chase is a very good, I guess, podium pick, right? So this is the second best receiver in the draft, and maybe the top five. I would say top five prospect for sure in this year's draft. I like to look at him as Jamar Chase, very similar in height, weight, all that good stuff. Obviously, the same school as well he's coming from, so I think it's an easy pro comp for him. Just super, super. Obviously, production is consistent, very consistent across the board. When people were saying he's going to run 4.4, he ran exactly 4.4. 6 foot 200, nothing to go crazy about in terms of size, but good size. And a guy that's just a freak of nature athletically in general. So yeah, I mean, it's without a doubt the number 2 prospect. I know a lot of people have been saying maybe he's better than Marvin Harris because he's a little more proven production wise too. But to me, I'd put him right at number 2, and that's, I feel pretty good about that. I feel pretty firm about 1 and 2.
All right. And you got Roma. Is it Roma Dunzi? Is that how we pronounce his name?
Yep,
All right. So
that's
Roma
right.
Dunzi at number 3, which we both agree on there. He's out of
Yep.
Washington, 4 years experience, 6'2", 212 pounds, runs a 4.45 40. So talk to us a little bit about Rome Dunzi from Washington.
Yeah. So you talk about the Bills potentially trading up. If they trade up a little bit higher, this is the guy they should target. Roma Dunzi, 6'3", 212, really good size. He ran 4.45. Just your prototypical outside X receiver. So to me, I think you'd have to probably get to at least pick 9 in order to get this
Wow.
guy. He is worth a top 10 pick in my mind. He put up some really good numbers this past year at Washington, and he's awesome, man. He's a leader. He's a hell of a player. Tested out really well. His field drills added up. He just looks the part, and with him playing at a big a Pac-12 school, a big time college football program, and shining against some elite defensive backs this past year. Yeah, I mean, how could you not want to take this dude in the top 10? So yeah, I would love to see the Bills, if they were going to make a move that far up, maybe it is to pick 9 or pick 8, and they go ahead and draft Roma Dunzi. That would be pretty damn good.
That's a big move. So that goes to our conversation, moving up or moving down. If you
Mhm.
move up, that was discussed in the Discord, you're gonna have to give up a lot to get in the
Oh
top
yeah,
10, right?
yeah.
So he's obviously going to be top 10. Neighbors is going to be top 5 probably. But what does that look like for you, Jake? What are you willing to part with to move up to 9 and get a guy like that?
You'd probably have to go 2 first rounders and maybe even a second rounder.
Whew.
So you'd have to lose next year's first and probably next year's second, one of those 2 second round picks. So now remember, we do have 2 second rounders next year. So if we were to lose one, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Now losing a first rounder, that's tough. But for a generational talent, and yes, I say generational talent like this young man, it might be worth it. And I do think the gap, it's like those 3 guys, and then there's a little bit of a gap after that. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go. But I really do think that those 3 are like, just mark them down as all pros right now, because that's what they will be.
Yeah, so I'd love to ask the channel, whether you're watching it live now or you get it on the rewatch, how far are you willing to move up, and how much are you willing to give up for a top 10 pick? I mean, it's a great discussion point there. Now, another guy who is going to go in the first round, I've seen him mocked anywhere from 15 to 28 for us, and that's
Yep.
Brian Thomas Jr. From LSU. 6'3" guy again, 209 pounds, runs a 4.33. I really love this guy for that speed, for that size. Again, another LSU guy. Talk to me a little bit about, first of all, him. And I know this is the guy we've been talking a lot about lately, but they both played, he and Neighbors played for LSU.
Yeah.
So was Neighbors the one getting the double coverage? And is that why he's over Thomas? Talk to me a little bit about those, and what. Talk to me about Brian Thomas Jr. and why you think he's below Neighbors.
I think Neighbors is just a little more developed in terms of like his route running. And for him, and it's interesting because Brian Thomas Jr. also played a lot in the slot, and he's a vertical threat from both outside and inside, to be honest with you. When I looked at his tape, I was really surprised with how often he was playing in the slot. I expected Malik Neighbors to be playing more in the slot than he was, but all I saw was BTJ. So I think when you look at the both of them, the more developed pro-ready guy is Malik Neighbors, but the higher potential is Brian Thomas Jr. This dude had 17 touchdowns this past year too, Mike.
Jeez.
So red zone threat, he can go up and get it. And Keith made a really good pro comp when we talked about him on the AFC East Summit show a couple weeks ago. AJ Green. And if you remember how AJ Green was when he first came in the league, forget about the recency bias. I know he kind of finished his career off a little more injury prone, but his first 5 years as a Bengal, this dude lit up the league. He was a top 5 receiver in the NFL, and he made his presence known. So this is who I think Brian Thomas Jr. will develop into. And again, we talked about potentially trading up. The farthest I would trade up is to probably that 9 or 10 pick to go get Rome Odunze. But if that fails, you trade up and you get this guy, and it's almost as good as Rome Odunze. I think Rome Odunze is just a little bit more solid, whereas BTJ is a little more raw. But damn, he's going to be really good at the next level. You get him some good coaching, and you get him a good quarterback like Josh Allen, it's a go.
Oh man, I can't even imagine. I'm wishing for that. But Weston's scaring me here. He's saying he's seeing mocks where BTJ is being mocked at 10 to 15 now. So crazy. So if you're going to get one of those top 4 guys that we just talked about, again, I don't know if I'm moving up that high, Jake, only because we know there's other guys, and we're going to talk about that. And then you make that decision. Are you really willing to go that high and give up that much draft stock when you've got these other great folks that we're going to talk about here? Let's see. Bill's Bunker, he says BTJ, my guy. He says,
I saw that.
Neighbor predicted BTJ to Buffalo as well. BTJ, Buffalo, Brian Thomas Jr. So, and then he says,
that's Brett's guy too. He's been talking about Brian Thomas for like 2 months now. So this is Brett. If you call this pick, man, got to give you your flowers, man.
For sure. So there you go. So those are the, we got 4 of them. Now, it might differ here. I'm sure the channel might differ. I might differ a little bit. Who's the number 5 guy? This is where you probably get into that. Just a slight dip, not a big dip, just a slight dip. Second tier, I'd call these guys. But Jake's going with his guy, and we're going off his list. I differed a little bit, but he's got Xavier Legette. So, I mean, we know why you love him. He's got great speed. Let's see here. He's what, 6'1", 6'2"?
Yep, 6'1".
And he runs in the 4.3s. He's a very stocky guy, very nice built. He runs a 4.39. He's 221 pounds. So I love that about him. Yeah. My only question to you, Jake, when you talk about him, he had 5 years experience at South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Why the heck did it take him 5 years to finally explode on the scene? What the heck were the coaches like, all right, finally, we're going to give you a chance? I mean, that's my only concern. And it's only a 1 year where he really prospered for that team. So a little bit of risk for me, but I'd love to get your thoughts on why you think it took 5 years for that man to get to where he is.
Well, he was sitting behind some, so South Carolina, they kind of, they're producing at least 1 to 2 guys that are going in the NFL every year. So he was sitting behind the 8 ball to begin with when he came to South Carolina. And they mainly just thought of him as more of a return guy. And he didn't really develop into that receiver type until his senior year. So he was a return man up until late last season. Not late the year before, 2022 season. And he came in like a bat out of hell as the X receiver there for South Carolina. And he showed exactly what he can do if you gave him the opportunity, and he ate up. But that's the reason why you see him mocked, as a late first, early second. You give him another year as that guy, I guarantee he's a top 15 pick. It almost reminds me of, like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, how they were a little more raw in college too. But look what they're doing in the NFL right now. Super consistent, just absolute freaks of nature. And he's pretty similar in size to both of them. So that's how he sort of models his game. I know a lot of people have talked about like Deebo Samuel too. It's an easy connection to make because both played for South Carolina. So he does have Deebo Samuel like traits, because this dude, yards after the catch, taking it intermediate route all the way to the end zone. He does that a lot. You could watch his tape, especially the one against Mississippi State. that dude had like 2 60-plus yard touchdowns that were like 10-yard passes. So he's unbelievable. To me, I really I love the upside, and I'm willing to take a risk on him. And I say risk very lightly. I think the only risk is the fact that he only has that 1 year of production, and he'd have more. You give him another year, but he's a 5th year senior, so you can't have another season. But this is a dude that is a physical freak of nature, and I think he will be AJ Brown or DK Metcalf 2.0. Pick your poison.
I like the comp. I'm going to use what you've been using against me all the time. It's a little raw.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, great 1 year. Is it a 1 year wonder? Don't know. But I love, like, the physical attributes are wonderful. I mean, I'm all about 6 foot and over. I'm all about 200. He's 221, and he runs a 4.3. He's anywhere near Debo. And that's pretty much right around Debo's. He's faster than Debo, and it's probably right around the size and weight of Debo Samuel. So I actually love that for that reason, Jake. It's a good pick there. I might have put myself. Let's see. I had Ladd McConkey ahead of him.
Okay,
and I really like Ladd. Another good guy with speed. He's a little bit under the 6 foot range, but dude, you want to talk about replacing a great route runner like Stephon Diggs? Ladd McConkey fits the bill. I mean, he's special as far as probably the best route runner in the class. I'm going to say that.
I'll agree with you on that. Definitely. Yeah.
All right.
And he's got the speed
about
too.
Yeah, exactly. He got great speed and out of Georgia, and I love it. And then Leggett was out of South Carolina, in case we didn't say that. Well, we'll keep down your list. We'll talk about that in a little bit more here. Next on your list after Xavier, and by the way, Xavier Leggett now. Everyone's saying he's first, second. He's probably top 50, somewhere around there. I don't know if I'm moving up the board. I'm waiting at 28, Jake. I'm waiting at 28.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
I could potentially stay at 28 or make that move down the board. I'd love to hear how the other Bills fans in the channel are thinking about moving up or moving down. And remember, we don't have a 4th round pick. I'm sorry, a 3rd round pick. We got too many 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7s. And to try to get into that 3rd round would be very, very good. I'm hoping we can do that. Anyhow, love to hear what the channel has to say.
By the way, I just want to make one more point.
Yep.
So AJ Brown talked about the pro comp. He's 6'1", 226. Xavier Leggett, 6'1", 223.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right. So then next up on your list is Adonai Mitchell out of Texas. 3 years of experience, 6'2", 205, runs a 4.34. Great speed, great size. Love it. And him and Xavier Worthy, who's next on your list, both coming out of Texas. My goodness, what a receiving core there. So talk to us a little bit about Adonai Mitchell. And there was some debate in our last show about AD, right? A lot of people love him. So talk to me about him.
Super, super explosive, a deep threat, got super good, elite long speed. I think the biggest knock on him, and I have yet to go back and watch some more tape on him since our conversation with our friend Anthony. But a lot of knocks on him and a lot of scouting reports, and I have seen a little bit of it, is that he takes plays off a little bit. Meaning when the play isn't going to him and you look at the opposite side of the field, he's usually walking. And when it comes to run blocking, I haven't heard great things, but again, our guy Anthony swears that he's actually not a bad run blocker. So he encourages everyone to go out there and watch some AD Mitchell tape on him run blocking. So I got to go take a look. Admittedly, I haven't watched anything since that conversation, but those are the biggest knocks on him. I think when you look at his size, Mike, he's 6'4", $190. So he's a little bit lighter, a little bit skinnier, but he would be a really nice pickup for the Bills just because he's got incredible hands and he's able to separate. And those are the two biggest things that we wanted. That's two things that Gabe Davis really couldn't do, right? So unfortunately right now, we're not looking for a replacement for Gabe. We're looking for a replacement for Steph Diggs. So to me, I'm looking for maybe a little bit more of a bigger guy and a guy that is a possession receiver that can work the intermediate. I'm having a hard time saying that word. Intermediary routes, screen routes, all that stuff, and more of a do-it-all player. And I just don't see AD Mitchell as a do-it-all guy. I see him more as like a vertical threat and a guy that's just going to get downfield more so. So that's why I have him at 6. That's why I have my boy Xavier Leggett just ahead of him. He's
Now
more raw, but
Now he played for Georgia and then he transferred
yeah,
to Texas, right? So was it the first year in Georgia? Then he spent his last 2 years over there.
First 2 years in
So his
Georgia.
final year was in Texas. Okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You talk about like production.
Yeah.
His best year was this past season with 800 something yards and 11 touchdowns. Prior to that, it was like 400 and then 100. So it wasn't anything to write home about. So, the whole knock on Xavier Leggett not being productive in college, at least this dude has a 1,000-yard season under his belt. So there is that. And this guy, I know he had Xavier Worthy on the other side too, and there's only so many mouths you could feed in that offense, but call a spade there.
Yeah, I agree. If I'm looking at just those numbers in college, I'm not so excited. What do you think's got people so riled up about him, so excited about him?
I think it's just, the vertical threat, the ability to catch touchdowns and go deep and to separate. It's elite, and his hands are unbelievable. The guy literally doesn't drop anything. He does have probably the best hands in the class, in my opinion.
All right, awesome. So again, here we are. We're 6th on the list here. I'm happy with any of these 6 right now. Of course, we're not going to get those top 3, but I'm just saying right now, at top 6 here, I'm good with any of them. Now the next one on your list, which I already talked about, I thought he was a little higher than your guy Leggett. Actually, no, your next guy. Sorry, we need to talk about Xavier Worthy, the guy who broke the 40 record, running a 4.21 at the combine, extremely fast. And but the problem with him that I have is his size, Jake. I mean, he's just got such a frail frame. And then let me give you some numbers here for him. He is 5'11", and again, under my 6 feet criteria that I have.
Yeah.
And then he's only 168 pounds. I'm really concerned about that. But 4.21 speed, and I've said this before, just because you are the fastest guy in the world doesn't equate to being a top wide receiver. I mean, you can go back in time and look at all the guys that maybe were that have the top 40s. There's a good number of them that didn't have really great careers in the NFL. So, Jake, let me throw it to you. He was on your list. So talk to us about Worthy and why you think he'd be, the next on your list for the Bills.
Do you remember Deshaun Jackson, Mike?
Oh, of course.
That's who this kid is, okay? Deshaun Jackson was 5'10", $175 himself. So very similar in height and weight. And he was able to show teams that he could play outside, he could play inside, had several 1,000-yard seasons. Probably going to go in the Eagles Wall of Fame, in my opinion. I mean, had a really good career there in Philly. And, he's not just a deep threat. He's a guy that's going to make plays and get some rack, So if you go back and watch any of his tape, he's not afraid to get a little dirty. I know his size scares you a little bit, but he's out there and he's making contact and he's lowering his shoulder and doing all those great things. And he can make people miss in the open field too. So to me, he's not like a gadget guy or anything like that. I think he is a true outside receiver who can also potentially play inside at times. But the yards after catch ability for him is really, really impressive to me at that size and what he did at Texas this past season specifically. So that's what really caught my eye. I really encourage you to go watch some tape on him. He was really fantastic, especially against Alabama. Watch that tape specifically. Terrion Arnold got juked out of his shoes in that game by him. So Terrion Arnold, a top draft pick for potentially a top draft pick this year. He did a lot of really good things in that game and some big games this past year.
Yeah. So I love what the Bills bunker says here. I push 165 like nothing on the bench. Imagine what an NFL player is going to do to
him.
Hell
yeah. Okay.
And then Trey's like, Trey Williams, good to see you. Leggett was top 2 in all college versus man. AD is bad versus man coverage.
Interesting.
Not sure why.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this in our Discord too, and it's not as commonplace now that a team runs a man scheme. It's a lot of zone-based schemes this day and age in the NFL. So that doesn't overly concern me, but it is something to definitely note. And yeah, I mean, when you look at the breakdown, I think he's like dead last when you look at him versus man coverage. Interesting stuff, especially for a guy that is known to be able to separate. But at the line of scrimmage, if you jam him a little bit, people are going to pick up on that, and teams are going to pick up on that. So maybe that's why he's fallen a little bit.
All right, before I move on to our next guy on the list here, I want everyone to do us a favor and smash that like button for us. Love you that you're in the comments, but if you're watching this on the rewatch, let us know your thoughts on all these people, how deep this class is, and are there even guys that we're not going to mention that you feel should have been part of that top 20 or 25? So again, give us a little love, hit that like button for us. Appreciate it. Jake, next up on your list, and I kind of mentioned him. I thought I thought this guy deserved to be a little bit higher, and that's Ladd McConkey. And he played for Georgia. 5 years of experience, my friend. I do like that about him. He runs a four. What is he? He's a 4.39 guy.
Yeah.
So
surprised a lot of people with that too.
Absolutely love him. I mean, again, I mentioned it a little earlier. Route runner, fantastic. So you lost Diggs, who was arguably one of the best route runners in the league. I'm not saying this guy's Stephon Diggs, but he is that type of guy, and he's got good speed as well. He's faster than Diggs was, and he's right around the same size as Diggs. He's only 186, but I mean, he's closer to the 200 than the other guy we just talked about. So,
yeah.
Wait, talk to me about Ladd.
So I think the biggest concern, and I guess this is probably what's keeping a lot of people from putting him as a solidified first rounder, is his lack of production in college. But again, we've talked about a couple of guys, Xavier Leggett being one of them. At least he did have a 1,000-yard season. Like I said, I'm going to make sure I keep repeating that. He did have a 1,000-yard season this past year, 1,200-plus yards.
Mm-hmm.
A.D. Mitchell never had a 1,000-yard season. Ladd McConkey never had a 1,000-yard season. So then you have to look at the tape and what he was able to do. He moves so damn fluidly. Like, he is an artist working in space. And to me, he's not just your typical slot receiver. He's not going to just play in the slot. Like, I think he's an outside guy too. And he offers, perks at doing both. I agree with what you said too, Mike. He is the best route runner in this class, without a doubt. But just because you look good in shorts and you do well at the combine doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be great in the NFL. But I did go back and I watched his tape as well, and it all sort of added up. And he moves really, really well with the ball in his hands. And when you look at his production, I mean, there were a ton of mouths to feed on these Georgia teams. Brock Bowers being one of them. Marcus Rosemis, Jack Saint, can't even pronounce his name. One of the other receivers there, Kenny McIntosh, Darnell Washington last year. And they were mainly known for running the football too. So this is another nice thing that people don't look at often, but he's really good at run blocking. So that's another perk to throw in the mix there. For his size, not being afraid to get dirty too, you got to love seeing stuff like that. I just can't put him in the top 5 because I really feel like he's going to be Anthony Gonzalez 2.0. Like, he can go in the first round, but his production at the next level is just going to be average at best. It's not going to be Cooper Kupp-esque or, Justin Jefferson-like or anything like that. It's going to be, 700 yards, 800 yards, which is fine. And I think he could play in the NFL for a while, but I just don't see him being that dynamic 1,400-plus yard receiver that we're looking for. So that's why I have him ranked so low.
All right. I have it on, I have a connection that says Ladd watches our show. And I have a friend of his, nice, apparently. And he's gonna be a little upset. I know he talked to the Chiefs. And that's one thing. If this young man goes to the Chiefs and we see him outperform whoever we pick, I'm going to come back at you, Jake, later on in the season.
That's fine. Hey, I will gladly eat my words. I have no issues with that whatsoever. Totally fine.
Yeah. So I just want to say, so first of all, just let me rattle through the ones we talked through. We've talked through a few. Marvin Harrison, he's a top 3 pick in the first round. When Jake was saying top 5, he wasn't meaning top 5 pick. It's on his top 5 list of receivers here. So he was saying that Ladd did not make his top 5 because of the reasons he gave. That's what I meant,
yes.
So Malik Neighbors, he's probably in the top 5 of the first round. Roma Dunzi, he's going to be easily probably top 10. You got Brian Thomas Jr. first round. Ladd McConkey, they're saying first to second round. We talked about A.D. Mitchell, again, first or second rounder. Xavier Worthy, first or second. And Leggett, first or second. So
that's right.
Again, this list is phenomenal. I mean, right now, if you were to tell me at 28, let's say all these other guys got picked ahead of, let's see here. Just talked about lead. So let's say the other 7 that you had on your list, Jake, got picked. I'd still be good with moving back for one of those deals I talked about early on. Move 7 spots back with the trade with Arizona, and get a 3rd round pick as part of that. And we're still 12 more guys on our list, buddy, that we even talked about that I'd still be happy with.
It's
All right.
insane.
So let's move on to the guy that has been rumored to be, I don't know if he's coming to Buffalo for a tryout or he's already had a private tryout or they've already had their conversation. That's Troy Franklin out of Oregon, 3 years.
Yeah.
He's 6'1", 176, again, smaller frame, sort of like Worthy, and speed around 4.41. And I know that at the combine, you thought he was one of the guys that disappointed you a little bit. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, well, it turns out he did have the flu at the combine, and
Okay.
his numbers were really good when it came to testing, but his on-field drills, he just didn't impress like I thought he would. And that's why I'm a little hesitant on him. I think he did improve slightly at his pro day. But the perks with Troy Franklin are that he is an elite vertical threat, and that's what we are looking for. He's got really, really good agility as well. He can move in and out of cuts and breaks, and he looks smooth out there when he's running his routes. So that's also something that is great. Great at high pointing the football. My biggest concerns, talk about Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin as well, light frame, right? So
Yep.
for his height as well, I mean, almost standing at 6'3", I think he's 6'2", but a $176. Like to see him gain maybe 10, 20 pounds. I think that would be a much better combination, right? So I guess that would be a concern. And talk about AD Mitchell not being able to run block. I think Troy Franklin might even be worse. Okay. So that is concerning to me. That's the little things that you look for on tape. And I didn't love that when I watched him. Just didn't seem like he was willing to put his body on the line a little bit at times when they were running the football. So hate seeing stuff like that, but I think it's all coachable things and stuff that he can correct with effort. So overall, definitely worth an early 2nd round pick to me. Even late 1st round at 28, I wouldn't be upset with it.
Yeah, I love what Weston's saying here. You know, Steph Diggs never had a 1,000-yard season in college either at Maryland, and that's why he was. What was he? He was like a fifth round.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
it's crazy. So, yeah,
and I hate to beat a dead horse on this, but I gave a pro comp of Xavier Leggett to DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf's best season in college was 646 yards at Ole Miss. His senior year, he had 569 receiving yards. And granted, he only played 7 games, but again, I mean, 2 for 13, 39 for 646, and 26 for 569 at Ole Miss. So there you have it. And look what he's doing in the league. Killing it.
Yeah. And Troy Franklin, he's on the boards and around he's a 2nd round pick. I think he's going to go in the 2nd.
Yeah.
And let's see here. There was another good comment here. Yeah, John Robert. I mean, he is under, like, if you've heard our shows, you've watched our shows. I always say to Jake, dude, and there was a guy we're going to talk about towards the end, Malik Washington, that he had on his list that I did. And I say, dude, he's only 5'8". So Jake's going to have his reasons when we get there. We don't have to talk about it. But yeah, I'm all about over 6 feet tall for sure. And I want someone to be tall. I want him to be over 200 pounds. And I want him to have some decent speed. That's what I'd love to have. Let's get bigger in that wide receiver room.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So let's see here. I'd be fine if the Chiefs took any of the Washington dudes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those guys, I'll tell you what, those dudes are climbing up some draft boards as well. I feel like they've been slept on. And I'm not talking Roma Dunze. I'm talking about the other two, Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan. I think those guys are definitely sleepers, both of them, Weston. So love that you said that.
It's good to see Roy. I've been wondering. He hasn't been around for the past few shows. I hope everything's been good.
He doesn't
Roy.
like Troy Franklin there. He does not.
I know.
I understand. I understand it.
Yeah. I think there'll be somebody, better available at 28. But again, if the Bills are talking to him, they've and it seems like he's had multiple conversations. They must love something about him. I know they talked to him at the combine. They talked to probably all these guys at the combine as well. Jake, next on your list, and I was actually surprised to see him coming at number 10, was because you had some negative stuff to say about him early on, and that's Keon Coleman, and out of Florida State. Again, he transferred. He's 6'3", love the height. Love the size, the weight, 213, runs a 4.61. I'm not happy with that at all. So talk to me why he made number 10 on your list.
Well, so he's still a big bodied receiver and a guy that can go up and get it. And I think he definitely serves a purpose in the NFL. Now, I don't think he's the best fit for the Bills because we do want a separator, and he's not like your go-to separator. But if he's there in the second round or something and he slips a little bit, why not take a flyer on that kid? Because you could do that where you take two receivers back to back, Mike, even if you wanted to. To me, he is he's not going to wow you with his testing numbers or anything like that, but he does look pretty smooth on film for the most part. The only issue, like I said, is that he just struggles to separate. And when you're struggling to separate at the college level, that doesn't bode well for your NFL career. But he's prototype physicality, can block, got great frame, super athletic build, and a lot of things to love about him. He's a jump ball maniac, and I love what Weston's saying here. He's a jump ball receiver. Doesn't run the greatest routes in the world. Yes, I would certainly agree with that, but still moves well, if that makes sense. So he doesn't look awkward. He doesn't look like Kelvin Benjamin out there or anything like that. So if he's available in the second round, he slips a little bit, even late second round, why not take a flyer on that kid? So that's why I had to put him at 10. I still think he can play at the next level, but for the Bills, he's not the best fit.
Yeah, I'm seeing him, like you said, first round, second round. It would be a late first round, and most people have him in the second. Let's see here. Let me just double
and
check
much better
that.
game speed than his 40 speed, because I think he ran 4.61, which not super impressive. That's not going to wow you or anything like that, but game speed definitely a lot better.
Yeah, you have to wonder now because, like I said, I was watching a Steve Smith show on his channel, and these guys are just really, they're focusing on that 40-yard dash, and that's what he said one of the big differences are. And I mean, if you're not getting out of that gate quickly, right?
Yeah.
They
that's the difference between 0.2 of a second.
Exactly. So
yeah,
but you have three chances, right? You got three chances to run that. So you'd think one of these, and they take your fastest of the three, right?
So it's actually two.
Just two. Okay, so they take the fastest of your two,
and then you can, at your pro day, of course, you can get
you can do it again. So interesting. Speed concerns me, but like you said, we've heard rumors that Jerry Rice was a 4.6 guy, something like that, and look what his game speed was. So good stuff there. The next guy, I have some other folks ahead of him, but we're going to go your list. You got Javon Baker next on your list, and Javon Baker is
flying up boards right now.
So, oh, by the way, I want to go back to Coleman. He was also on transfer to Florida. Who did he play for before that?
I'm trying to think.
Ken Coleman.
Oh my gosh, where was he before that? Michigan State, I think it was. Yeah, it was Michigan State. Yes, Michigan State. And I think he was pretty good there. I think he was a honorable all Big Ten or something like that. So he was pretty decent. But yeah, this past year at Florida State, led the team in receiving touchdowns. I think another guy that was a 1,000-yard receiver in college, by the way, Mike. So we got a whole list of these dudes. So to hone in on production at times is sometimes silly. I mean, it's good to see, obviously, a guy at a bigger school put up numbers, but it isn't everything all the time. But yes, and by the way, it is Michigan State. I was right on that.
So Javon Baker's next on your list. I would have had track reviewers, Johnny Wilson ahead of him. But we'll talk about Johnny. Johnny did make our list here. Javon Baker is out of UCF. Again, another transfer, 4 years experience. You can tell us who he transferred from. 6'1". Who?
He's a Bama guy. He transferred from Bama to UCF. Right. Yep.
6'1", 200 pounds, runs a 4.54 40. Talk to us about Javon Baker and why he's number 11 on your list.
Yeah, he's got really good route running ability, separates extremely well. I think with him, the most exciting part of his game is he will be like Brandon Lloyd at the next level, making some of the most highlight-worthy catches you'll ever see. I mean, if you go back and watch the Boise State game from this past year, he went up and got this ball, and it looked like there's no way in hell this guy's going to come down with this, but it was just a freak of nature catch, and he did that multiple times this season with UCF, but that one really stuck out to me. You can go back and watch some of his highlights, Mike. It's awesome. I'll have to send it to you after the show because I was just like awe-stricken. My jaw dropped. And stuff like that is just, you love to see it. And to me, that's who he is. He's Brandon Lloyd 2.0. So I think he's got a really good frame for the NFL. He's got a really good burst of quickness as well. He's got good yards after the catch ability. And he's a vertical threat, like I said, with the ability to make some insane grabs. Guys couldn't even fathom making some of the catches that this dude can make, in my opinion. And he had a very strong Senior Bowl, too.
Gotcha. Want to say hi to Timmy. Timmy coming in there.
Timmy, let's go, baby.
Timmy, before the show started, I always give love to the Sabres Edge, and I'm gonna go watch your show because I absolutely love you and Sam. And I was just cracking up, and Jake's like, "Is that Timmy?" Because I had it playing on my phone while we're getting ready for the show. And your whole debate with Sam about there should be one goal score song for the whole team, not individuals. Absolutely loved it. Funny. I couldn't stop laughing. I had to delay the show a little bit because I was cracking up. Jake was seeing that. It's funny.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, let's see here. Good. So this is good stuff from Trey. He says, the reason it's hard to believe Ladd McConkey can turn into Diggs is the hands and arms. They're both tiny. Diggs has massive hands relative to his height. McConkey is more explosive, but double coverage is going to be hard for him to high point any balls.
That's well put. Yeah.
Good stuff there.
Agreed with that, man. Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. Javon Baker was your number 11 pick. Number 12 on your list of top 20 wide receivers that the Bills should target was Malachi Corley. And I'm right there with you. And at Western Kentucky, 4 years. This is where he falls a little short, 5'10", but short, stocky dude, man. 4 foot 10. You don't want any receivers 4'10", 5'10", 215 pounds. Did not partake in the combine or nor the pro day. I don't have any 40 time on him, Jake, unless you do. But talk to me about this guy from Western Kentucky and why he's so high on your list.
He's like a 4.4 guy. Game speed is super good, and this is actually a very good pro comp, but like Curtis Samuel, kind of similar. Really? Runs like he's a running back with the football in his hands. He's a little shorter, stockier. Also love Steve Smith actually giving him a comparison to himself. I mean, when you look at the side-by-side, it's kind of close there too. He just runs angry, Mike. This is a guy that he played at a smaller school, Western Kentucky, but he put up really good numbers against some big-time opponents. Played extremely well against Ohio State. I think he caught 8 passes in that game against them. Not afraid to get dirty in the run game, block his ass off, and he's a prototypical slot receiver in the NFL, but he can work out of the backfield as well. There's just a lot of things that you can do with him, and it's an exciting pick for any other team but maybe the Bills, just because I feel like we already filled that gap. So while I would love a guy like this, he's definitely going to be that slot receiver, and I feel like we're kind of set there. I want an outside guy if I'm going to take a guy in the second or first round. So he's probably a mid-second round pick in my mind, but had to put him on this list just because he's so damn big and physical, and he just runs angry, and I love his game. It's really impressive to me.
So he's also another guy getting comps to Deebo Samuel. By the way,
I saw that too. Yeah.
By the way, he was a former running back. And I saw this one guy who put his comparison to Rashee Rice. And I'm like, if it's Rashee Rice, I want nothing to do with him now. No, thank you. No. Rashee Rice.
I don't see that player.
Yeah. This is just one person's opinion. So,
yeah.
Pretty good show you put on. But yeah, I noted that. So, yeah, another Deebo Samuel, former running back. And, a little bit on that short side. And like you said, we got Curtis Samuel, a couple of these other guys we talked about, or at least one other, also as a Deebo Samuel comp. But let's move on. Next on your list here.
Yeah. Yep. Who do we got? Jermaine Burton.
So again, we're on your list. We are we're number 12 already. We're going to 13. Didn't we talk about Baker? We talked about Baker. Did you say Baker?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
he was number 11. No, I said Burton, Jermaine Burton.
No, next on your list, sir, is Roman Wilson.
Okay. Yep.
Roman Wilson, I know, had a really good Senior Bowl. I think that's where he his stock shot up a little bit. played for Michigan, right?
Yep.
And he is a 4-year guy, 5'10" again, a little bit shorter, 186, not that 200 mark. Runs in the 4.3s, 4.39, good speed. I saw some pictures from this. I saw some pictures of this guy as I was doing the research. I actually put one, I think, on the thumb, and the dude looks like he's 16 years old, man.
Yeah, yeah, he's
So
got a
he's got,
young face.
yeah, he's got some churn to do in the face. But talk to
Yeah.
me about Roman Wilson and why you like him at number 13 on your list.
Yeah, so I grouped the two prototypical slot receivers right there. I didn't want to not give them the love that they deserve because I feel like both of them are going to be really good at the next level and day one starters, in my opinion, once they get drafted. I just feel like maybe the Bills aren't the greatest fit just because I feel like we got our guys there, right? So whether it's Khalil Shakir or Curtis Samuel, it's going to be one of those two dudes filling that slot receiver position for us. And I really want to go outside. I don't think he projects as an outside guy at the next level here, but he does have some really, really good long speed, and he's really good going across the middle and taking the ball 80 yards if you need him to. He ran 4.39 as well at the combine, which
Yeah,
I was pretty surprised about. I thought he was going to be high 4.4s. So that was really cool to see. I think he's perfect in like a West Coast offense, able to hit a lot of big plays, super competitive. He's a grinder, man. Like he'll go out there. If you were watching the Michigan game, it was against, trying to think, it was in the college football playoffs. He ends up fumbling, but then the next drive, he goes and scores a touchdown. That's a dude that has a short-term memory, and he doesn't let it get to him too much. He was upset about it, but he made up for it, and he made up for it in one of the biggest moments.
yeah. So let me just go back a little bit. Again, I've been trying to keep up with where folks are seeing or where the boards and mocks are having guys go or what some of the experts think. You talked about Javon Baker, which I thought, again, I had other guys ahead of him because what I'm seeing, Javon Baker, he's going anywhere from a third or fourth round, Jake. And I don't know
I
if you
don't
agree with
know.
that or not.
He's been climbing up some boards, Mike, from what I've
Yeah,
seen recently.
again, it depends what board you're looking at there, I would
Yeah, yeah.
imagine. Malachi Corley, Malachi is anywhere from a second to third round pick. Um,
Yep.
Roman Wilson, they're saying right around a third round pick. So again, we don't have a third round pick. That's why I want to move back, Jake. Get
Yeah,
a third round
yeah,
pick.
I get it. I get
And
it. And
again,
now
yeah,
that
go ahead.
brings up a good point too. You could take an outside guy and then maybe take a guy like Roman Wilson or Malachi Corley with your second pick. You double down on the receiver position, you get one of each. So not a bad option either.
Yep. Yep, not at all. All right, let's move on to the next guy here on your list. Number 14 on your list is Jermaine Burton. We both had
There we go.
Jermaine on our list. I had Jermaine a little bit higher, 6 foot, right on the dot, 196 pounds, runs a 4.45, four
Yeah.
years. Well, he played 4 years in college. He was a transfer to Alabama. I'm not sure where he played before Alabama. Maybe you know that. But
Georgia.
anyhow, talk to us a little about, yeah, what's with these people going to Georgia and then
I know.
transferring? What's up with that? You got a little
It's
insight on that?
weird. Well, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, they got a good close relationship. But yeah, it's interesting. You know, you see a lot of these. But this dude, so he averaged 20.5 yards a catch this year. And that really intrigued me. Honestly, I love what the pro comp was. I think this is on NFL.com. His pro comp was Kenny Stills, which I think is actually perfect for him. Now, couple concerning things. I think he got into some trouble off the field, but I know for a fact it was at the end of the game against Tennessee. He struck a female in the face with like his helmet or something like that. So
Oh.
stuff that you don't love. And I know Brandon Bean is very wary of stuff like that. So I don't know if he would project as a Buffalo Bill just because of that. We want good character guys, good culture. Obviously missed on Matt Ariza, but everything else, you know, of course. I think with him, he is super athletic and he's a mid-second round pick. He's definitely a pro-ready receiver, well coached. I think he played at IMG Academy too in high school too. So you know this dude just bloodlines of coaching. I mean, it's insane. IMG to Georgia to Alabama. So this dude has already been coached up for the next level. But what I love about him is his route running ability. He's physical. He's great on his breaks. He just looks really good on tape. And honestly, love the fact that he averaged 20.5 yards a catch, Mike. That tells me he's a big playmaker, and I think he can really succeed at the next level. So I like the kid a lot. I think he's worth, you know, a mid-second rounder, like I said, and he's going to do well at the next level.
So I'm seeing anywhere from 2 to 4, and only because of the maturity
Yep.
concerns that people have and what you just talked about. And
Yeah.
again, if you're talking about the Bills, again, they look at those things. Um, again, he has all the attributes, but I think there's other options I would take. But he definitely deserves to be on the top 20 list. I had him on mine as well.
How do you
So
feel about his size? 6', 196. Is that
he's okay. I mean, it's
yeah?
like I always say over 200. He's right at 200. Get him over at the barbell, one night, and he'll show up game day 210.
There you go.
210.
I love it.
All right, next on your list, number 15 on your list, Jake. First of all, let me catch up with the channel a little bit. Don't mean to ignore you guys. Let's see here. Baker has, right, Colin saying Baker has build-up speed, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yep.
And Trek Reviewer saying, for some reason, I think Coleman will end up in Washington.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, as one of those 2 second-rounders, maybe. Yeah.
Then Trey saying, Baker is a long strider, but has great release and much better hands than Gabe. Great catch radius. I love that.
Yep, absolutely.
And then
something about UCF receivers too going to Buffalo, so maybe, right?
And then Jermaine Burton has some of the off-field issues. Yeah, exactly. You touched on that. So that's the concern. So that's why I'm seeing him or hearing anywhere from second to fourth. Second, if he didn't have those issues, but
yeah,
I think people are going to stay away from it, just like Devondre Sweat. I don't know. I also saw something in the Discord about Devondre Sweat today, right? He was DWI.
25% over the legal limit when he was tested. So I guess he was arrested at 4:01 a.m. or something like that, and then they test him at the station like 2 hours later, and he was still 25% over the legal limit. So who knows? I mean, I don't know how that all works. I'm not a big science guy. I don't claim to be, but nonetheless, it's not a great look, especially after he talked to coaches and said, "Hey, I'm out of my partying phase. Like that's not me anymore." And goes out and does something like that. That's tough.
And then we also heard Rashee Rice. Is he still not turned himself in? I saw some chatter going on about that today in the Discord.
I saw something that he was charged officially, right? Was that a thing? Was he charged? Yeah. Weston, you got to fill us in on that one. I haven't actually been on the Discord in a little bit, so.
Oh, okay. I saw a lot of arrest warrant back and forth today.
Yeah, maybe an arrest warrant was issued or something.
Yeah, Weston will fill us in here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has 24 hours to turn himself in.
Man.
The fact that it's come down to that, I mean, again, I don't know what the suspension will be, but there's going to be something. I don't even know. Would they cut him loose, Weston? Would the Chiefs like, I'm not even going to deal with that. Just cut him loose? Interesting stuff there. Interesting developments, which now makes it more of a concern for the Chiefs. And I feel like they're going wide receiver just like the Bills.
Probably. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 8 different
charged with 8 counts, dude. That's insane.
Not good. Not good. Wow.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the number 15th guy on your list. That's Jalen Polk. And Jalen Polk is out of Washington, 4 years. Also a transfer to Washington. Not sure who he played for before. You seem to know all this off the top of your head, which is amazing, by the way. But he's 6'1". Texas Tech. Look at that, dude. 203 pounds. Ran a 4.52. Talk to me why Jalen Polk is your number 15 on your board here for wide receivers.
Well, I don't think he's as pro ready as Rome Odunze, but kind of similar in size. He's 6'1", 203, and this was the number 2 to Rome Odunze. He's got that NFL frame already, in my opinion, at 6'1", 203. I don't think there's any issues there. Super good ball skills and put up some really nice numbers this year too. He had 1,100 yards himself, Mike. So the fact that he could shine alongside a dude like Rome Odunze is really, really impressive to me. He's got really, really good speed. I think he is climbing up on a lot of boards, to be honest with you. His route running ability is super impressive. He's got incredible body control. Like this dude, talk about like just being able to make the tough catches and drag your feet, make NFL style catches, even at the college level and get 2 in. Like he was a master at that. So the more tape I watch on him, the more I like of him. And I agree with what you're saying here, Weston. Yeah, he is really, really impressive, man. I think that'd be a really good get for anyone in the second round. And I say second round because I don't think he's as developed or as physically gifted as some of these other guys that are potential first round picks, but he's close, very close.
Let's see. Let's see where I'm seeing him fall based on my research here. I'm seeing him. You're saying second, Jake? I'm seeing
I think second.
third and fourth rounder, man.
Wow. What are you? Where's this from, Mike?
I can't reveal my source.
Okay, that's fair.
I
You
can't
might have
reveal
an
my
NFL
source.
scout saying this, so we don't know.
I know, but it's a trustworthy source. But yeah,
I love
third
it.
and fourth. I'd love to see where you're seeing it. I'd love to hear what the chat thinks of him as well. Jalen Polk. You think he's first, second rounder like Jake's saying, or you see him falling further on the board there? I don't. I just when I look at the, can you bring up his stats real quick and just kind of give us some college stats? I mean, because he played for 4 years, and then was it his last year he went to Washington, or did he play for his last 2 years in Washington?
So I think it was
got
3
there.
years. 3 years he played at Washington.
Okay.
Let's see the numbers here. I always like the layout best on College Football Reference. It just looks better to me.
I agree.
Yeah, so 3 years at Washington. He was at Texas Tech his freshman year, then he transferred. But yeah, during his 3 years, so this year he had 69 for 1159 and 9. So nice year. The year prior to that, 41 for 694 and 6. Year before that, 5 for 114 and 1. But he only played in 3 games that year. So yeah, production went up every single season. So love to see that too.
I'm sorry, what did you say his last season was? Touchdowns and yards?
69 catches for 1159 and 9 touchdowns.
All right, nice.
16.8 yards a catch too. You love seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yep.
All right, so next guy on your list, number 16. I had this guy right around the same spot. I had him around 17. Devontae Walker. You like to use his nickname Tez. You're like, you throw me this list, I'm like, Tez, you mean Devontae, right? And he's like, so Jake's, he's up on the nicknames for these guys. But also another guy who played 4 years, transferred to North Carolina.
2-time transfer.
Really? You'll have to tell us about that when I throw it to you. 6'1", 193, runs a nice 4.36. So Jake, I like this guy. As a matter of fact, I like this guy above some of the other guys we've already talked about. So talk to me why he's at 16 on your list.
Well, you talk about rawness, and when you see the 2-time transfer, I think that used to be a lot more concerning than what it is now. So the reason why he transferred originally, so he went to North Carolina Central, and in 2020, they ended up canceling their season because of COVID. And at that point, he decided, hey, I'm going to go test my limits at another Division I school, a higher up level Division I school. So he goes to Kent State. Kent Reed, Kent Wright, Kent State. I'm from University of Buffalo, so I got to chirp him a little bit. But they are a MAC school, so I got to give them love. A lot of good receivers have come out of Kent State, by the way. Julian Edelman, Josh Cribbs. I know those guys, kind of different in talent. But, yeah, a lot of good talent out of Kent State. But did really good things in 2022 there. I believe he had like 11 receiving touchdowns. He almost had 1,000 yards. And then after that, he's really, I know he was pretty close with Drake May, and he decided to transfer to North Carolina. And that's where he went and did some good stuff. I know he missed some of the season because he was like ineligible, and I think he didn't actually start playing until like October. So there is a little bit of concern there, but I don't know what the reasoning was even behind that. I don't know if it was because of grades or something else outside of it. And I don't want to start those rumors, but yeah, he tested super well at the combine, and he did a lot of good things for himself there. 4.36, 40.5-inch vertical, Mike, 11'2" broad jump. Like those are freakish numbers. Yeah, freakish numbers. And you talk about the vertical threat, like that is him to a T. I think he is like A.D. Mitchell, but not as pro-ready as A.D. Mitchell. He struggles a bit with his route running ability. He kind of gets tangled up, especially with his footwork too at times. A little sloppier than you'd like to see, and I think that's what really limits him from being a first-round talent. I think he's a late second, maybe early third-round pick. But I like the kid. I think it's worth taking a flyer on him. I know the Bills met with him, so definitely an interesting prospect to me.
Yeah, I also have him going around third or fourth round as well. So again, I feel like based on some of these other folks that you've brought, I feel like he's ahead of a few ahead of a few of the others that you had on your list. But love it. Love the
Yeah,
size, love the speed. Height and weight is perfect.
it's a good point. Yeah, he did struggle during his pro day a little bit. That is true.
Struggle where?
Just
Oh,
drop a lot of
dropping every
passes.
balls.
Yeah,
Okay,
he did. Yeah,
that's a
it was
problem.
not a great showing. I don't love the comparisons to Chase Claypool. That is not Chase Claypool. If you remember, he came in and he lit the league on fire his rookie year, and then after that, he just went downhill and it tanked hard. And now look at him. I mean, he can barely stay on an NFL roster.
All right. So next on your list, coming in at number 17 is Ricky Pearsall. And I had Ricky a little bit higher, but he's in my top
Mhm.
20 out of Florida. Another
Yeah,
5 year. A lot of these guys are transferring, Jake. I mean, talk to me about this because when I look at all these receivers, a lot of them have transferred. And
yeah,
is that something new? Has that been a thing just recently, or has it been around for a
yeah.
while? Because I feel like guys used to go to a college and they'd stay there, and
Right.
now everyone's transferring. So I get it if you're not getting any playing time and you think another team wants you there and you feel you can do better. That's kind of
It's a
crazy.
sad state of affairs. Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs in the NCAA. While it's great that these guys are getting the NIL deals and all that stuff, we talked a little bit about that last show, Mike. So name, image, likeness. These guys are able to sign with different brands and make some money on the side and actually have some money because these dudes can't have normal jobs. I mean, their job is football essentially, right? So got to have some sort of income. And it's like, what a phenomenal business model, right? These schools are making billions of dollars off these players and these guys don't see a dime of it legally. Now they do. So
Yeah.
it's interesting because I think it has changed the dynamic a little bit. And then with the transfer portal, there used to be a rule when you would transfer from one school to another, you'd have to wait at least a season to play football. Now there is no rule like that. You can just go to another team and play right away. So there's no limitations, and that's why you're starting to see, hey, I'm going to transfer from this school to this school, this school to this school, and coaches don't really bat an eye at it because it's so damn normal now. And I hate it because to me, there are reasons why you transfer, of course, but if you're battling through some adversity and you stay with the program for 4 seasons, it just looks better to me.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm old school. I don't know. But it definitely is a lot more commonplace this day and age. And it's rare to see someone at a school his entire 4 or 5 years of college now.
Yeah, I kind of like Ricky. Like I said, I had him higher on the board. He's 6'1", 5 year
Yeah.
college career as well. He's 189, not quite that 200, but like I said, go to barbell, you'll be up to 200, no problem. What I do like is that he's very polished and he's another very good route runner.
Yeah.
I also have him running a 4.41, nice speed. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
very close to Lad McConkey. And I'd like to hear what I think it was Trey who was saying he didn't think Lad McConkey um, because of his hands. And what was the other thing that he was saying? But how do you think Ricky Pearsall compares to Lad McConkey? So I'd love to hear
They're
that.
super similar.
But
Like
talk to me. Yeah.
athletically, they tested very similar.
Yep.
Ricky Pearsall had a 42-inch vertical too, and
Ooh, wow.
there's some highlight reel plays that he made at Florida. There's one play that comes to mind where he goes up and he catches it one hand, and it's like a Madden highlight catch. So he is capable of doing stuff like that. But to me, what's really impressive, obviously a really good route runner, but works super well in space, really good on choice routes, and that is Josh Allen's bread and butter. He needs a guy like that, right? So although we're talking strictly outside receivers for the majority of this list, like this is a guy that is a very solid option to maybe double down on if you get a guy that's a little bit more raw, like an Xavier Leggett in the first, and then maybe Ricky Pearsall in the second, early third. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting prospect to me. I know our boy Brett loves him, and I've watched a little bit of tape on him. He's got like track speed too, Mike. So that's another thing with him. He's just a really, really freak athlete and just a big fan. Offers some return value too.
Where are you seeing him go on your research?
I've seen late second, early third.
That makes sense. I'm seeing him like first 2 rounds. I mean, top 50
Okay.
is what I've seen. So
Yep.
makes sense. Somewhere in the second, maybe third.
Yeah.
But I like him. I wouldn't be disappointed at all. Now the next two on your list, I love, and Trek Reviewer is going to love at least one of them. Coming in at number 18, and I'm believing in the bloodline, man. I don't know why the bloodline's big with me right now because there was a big thing on WrestleMania. I know Trek Reviewer left our show to go watch the WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to hear some details about it because I've only been able to watch clips. And It was what I heard. It was a lot of fun and good stuff. But yeah, so Brendan Rice, and I've been talking about him. I believe in the bloodline. I believe at 6'3", let's see here. Let me give you some numbers here. 6'3", out of USC. He's 208 pounds, 4-year guy in college, transferred again, another transfer guy to USC. Yep. And he runs 450. I think that was a little slower than a lot of people thought he was going to time at, but 450 is not bad. And like we've already said, his dad, Jerry Rice, people said he was not that fast at all, 4.6 in his 40. And look what happened in the NFL. No one could keep up with that guy. He was a great route runner. He could get by people in a heartbeat. Once he got even with you, it was over.
Yep.
So talk to me about Brendan Rice. I love him. I think he's even higher. Like, I would take him over some of these other guys that we mentioned, but talk to me about Brendan Rice, man.
Yeah. I would say the bloodlines alone should get you drafted, right? I mean, they should get you drafted higher just because you are the GOAT son, right? So,
yes.
No, I love him as a prospect too, Mike. And when you sent me that tape on him initially, I was fired up. Like, I watched a little bit of him, but I was really impressed by it. And I think he bailed Caleb Williams out a few times, to be honest with you. I mean, he made Caleb a better quarterback this year. There's no doubt about it. What I love about him is he's a red zone threat, super competitive on 50-50 balls, and he'll come down with it more often than not. He's actually a really good crisp route runner too, from what I've seen. And he can also offer a little bit of return value too. I know I keep saying that, but this is a nice added perk for some of these dudes. Where he does struggle is with his footwork, and at times gets a little bit sloppy. He doesn't always box out properly when he goes up for those 50-50 balls. But like I said, he does come down with them more often than not. I think he just needs a little bit more consistency, and he'll be there. But to me, we talked about doubling down. We've been talking about that all show. This is a guy you double down on, right? So you can get him in the 3rd or 4th round, and I think you got great value out of that pick.
And to have the GOAT wide receiver to talk to whenever you want, to be training with you whenever you want, and constantly in your ear. And I would love to see Jerry Rice in the stands in Buffalo. Great opportunity for you, Jake, to get cool. some good autographs, right?
Oh, absolutely.
He would show up many times. So I absolutely love Brendan Rice.
Shoot, Jerry could probably still play, Mike. This is a dude that had 1,200 receiving yards at age 40. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, I hear you. I agree. Yeah, Trek Reviewer, I do have Peacock, so I'm going to check it out. So I'd love to see it. All right, number 19 on your list out of 20, and Trek Reviewer has been calling for this guy since we even started talking, before we even started talking draft talk, and that is Johnny Wilson. Johnny, by the way, Brendan Rice, they're saying, what I've seen in my research, late 3rd rounder, Jake. I don't know what you're seeing on him, Brendan Rice.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing too. Wilson. Yep, late 3rd, maybe early 4th. Yeah.
All right, so Johnny Wilson, and 4-year out of Florida State. There's a guy, all 4 years of Florida State. No transfer there.
There it is.
Which is nice. 6'6", dude. 233. Runs a 4.52. I mean, you want size, good speed. Talk to me about this guy. I have some comments as well. Johnny Wilson out of Florida State.
Yeah. The biggest knock on him has been his concentration. He does have some issues at times with those 50-50 balls and just other normal passes in general. So I think that's the most concerning thing about him, but his size, his wingspan, everything else has him way up. I mean, I think he can certainly play at the next level, but whether he prospects out as a tight end or a receiver is definitely going to be interesting. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Darren Waller. Darren Waller was a receiver in college at Georgia Tech, ends up converting to tight end in the NFL and becomes a really good receiving tight end. So maybe that's his path, or maybe he stays like a 6'6", 231 receiver, and he ends up being like, I hate to say it, but maybe like a Kelvin Benjamin, but maybe early on Kelvin Benjamin, where he was a 1,000-yard receiver, right? So I think there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of meat on the bone with Johnny Wilson. I think he is raw, and that's why he is probably a 3rd or 4th rounder. But yeah, Trek Reviewer, I know that's your guy, and I would love to see the Buffalo Bills go get him.
Yeah, and I'm seeing him basically around, what are they saying here? My research shows, where do you go?
Third or fourth.
Third round. Yeah. Third round, right there with you.
Yep.
So, I mean, listen, guys, we're through 19. We got one more to talk about. And we're talking guys that could be taken in the first round, second round, third round. We've got some people that could be falling to the fourth round. And with all the picks that we have, again, I talked about it early on. We could double down, and I'm still, I don't know. I love to hear the channel. I know I haven't seen a lot, but some of you folks that came in late, would you move down the board? Would you move down? Take a second rounder. We talked about it. Arizona and Washington have multiple third rounders. You can get their second round pick potentially. Of course, they got to we don't deal with you, but hey, why wouldn't they want it? They're on the rebound. They're trying to get their team better, more competitive. Why wouldn't they jump into the first round, give you their second, which is only like 7, 8, 9 spots behind 28, and then throw in one of their third rounders, which they have 3 of them. I think I know for sure Arizona has 3 third rounders and Washington has a couple, maybe 3 as well. But let me know what you're thinking. So the last guy on Jake's list at number 20 did not make my list because he's 5'8", is Malik Washington. Jake is selling me hard on this guy. 5'8 and a half. Let's give him
his official combine numbers. 5'8 and a half.
Yeah. Jake Washington. So let's see here. What do I have on numbers on? Go ahead and talk to me about Jake Washington. I'll fill you in on. Not Jake Washington.
Malik Washington.
See,
but I love that.
See, you got me messed up here. Go ahead, Jake. Talk to me about your guy Malik.
Yeah, so I know you're a little concerned about the height, but his weight. He's 191, Mike. So he's a little stockier, right? He's got a little bit more of almost like a running back build, if you will. But listen, I know we've highlighted a lot on production. This dude had 110 catches for 1,400 plus yards this past season at Virginia. And I think he had like 9 or 10 touchdowns as well to go with it. He had 100 or more receiving yards his final 10 games of the season this past year. He is next level. I really, really like. He's next level. Like this is my sleeper pick for the receiver position this year, Malik Washington. Unfortunately, like I said, it's not the first type of receiver position I want. I don't want a slot receiver over an outside receiver because he is probably for sure slotted in as a slot receiver at the next level here. He did run a pretty basic route tree there at Virginia. It was basically just dink and dunk, and he would just take it to the house. Nothing too crazy on that side of things, but athletically, this dude had a 42.5-inch vertical. He ran 4.47. He also bench pressed 225 19 times. He runs angry. He's got great yards after the catch ability, and I just love him. I'm a huge fan. This is like I talked about Malachi Corley a little bit. He's very similar in that sense. And I think he likens a lot to a guy like Jamison Crowder early on in his career. Don't let recency bias get in the way of that. Jamison Crowder, when he first came into the league, did really good things in Washington. He was an 800-yard receiver. Actually was really good in his first year as a Jet as well. Actually destroyed the Bills a few times. I think he had a couple 100-yard games against us throughout his career. But that's who I see him as. It's interesting because Jamison Crowder went to Duke, another ACC school, so the parallels are there. But I love this kid, Malik Washington.
All right. Well, my take on him. I mean, if we were to take him in late rounds, I'm okay. We got 10 picks. We get him in a late round. Where do you think he's going?
I think he's a third rounder.
Third rounder?
Third to fourth. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to say fourth. And I'm saying if we can get him with a fourth rounder, I would be perfectly fine with him. Jake, any earlier? No. I'm sorry. I don't want that 5'8" guy. I'm sorry. I just don't.
I think it also depends on who we took prior to him. Like if we took an outside receiver and then we doubled down and got him, I'd be over the moon.
I'm going to bring up something from Roy, which I truly I'm in full agreement with. But I want to say, first of all, Trek is calling for a Rock versus Podger and a table match. Woo-hoo! That would be funny. Let's see here.
Yikes.
Trey's saying Johnny Wilson feels like a Steelers draft pick that could randomly work out. And what I like about what Truckerveer says, he's really selling him because if he's any version of Harold Carmichael,
okay, Hall of Famer
I'm
Harold
taking him.
Carmichael. Are you
Oh,
kidding
wow,
me?
that would be fantastic.
He was 6'8", Mike.
Yeah,
Tallest receiver to
yeah,
ever play, Harold
yeah.
Carmichael.
Pray for the Eagles, and
Yep.
great, great guy, great career.
Yeah.
And then Roy's saying this. This is what I agree with, and this is why I keep saying maybe trade back a little bit. I'm still in the belief if there's a top edge or 3 tech D lineman falls to 28, Bean takes that player over a wide receiver.
Yeah.
It
It
could
really
just,
depends who's on the board too. Like
yeah.
if so, say Chop Robinson's there, and listen, I want to apologize for the Chop Robinson slander I threw out there last show. I went back and immediately watched some tape. I highly encourage you to go watch the Illinois tape and the Michigan tape from this past season. He was dominant. And like Anthony said, this dude was off the ball and across the line of scrimmage before he could even blink. Linemen weren't even out of their stances. Like this dude has that skill set. Like the numbers aren't going to wow you or anything like that, but the amount of pressures he had and the impact he had on the game single-handedly was insane to me. So I like that prospect a lot. All right, Chop Robinson, no disrespect. And listen, if Chop is listening, I want to offer my condolences.
Runs a 4.48 Chop Robinson,
I know.
and that defensive line, whether it's inside because we're really old on the inside. We got Ed Oliver. I would love to get another guy, another young guy that can kind of build some chemistry and be with Ed for a few years. But on the edge as well, we desperately need it. I mean, you saw what happened last year. We could not get any pressure off the edge. Who knows what version of Von Miller we're going to see, but we got Groot, who hasn't been bringing any pressure off the edge. And then we got AJ Epinesa, who you think is going to have a nice year because then you get more play time. But I would love to add a guy like this, a guy that's been comped to Micah Parsons, a guy that is 6'2", 254, runs like I said, a 4.48, and he played 3 years. I think he was a transfer as well, other transfer guy. 3 years, played for Penn State. Great college for a defenseman. So
so we talk about like quick first step too. Like AJ Epinesa is one of the fastest in the league. Yeah. Like pairing him with Chop Robinson, those are your 2 fastest dudes in the league off the ball. So that would be awesome. I guess the only issue I would have with it is like I want to see AJ Epinesa get more than 38% of the snaps. Like I don't want him to be a 50% guy. Like I think he needs a good 75% of the snaps because I want to see what he really is. And I feel like we haven't gotten that just yet. We've seen little glimmers and it's been great at times. So I want to see that greatness shine throughout the whole year.
Yeah. So again, there you see it, folks. We just listed 20. There's another 5. I'm sure you can look at the top 25 wide receivers. I think the Bills with their 10 picks, most of these guys too that we talked about are going no later than 4th round. There's only a few as well that I think would slip to the 4th that we talked about. So we said this receiver class was deep. We wanted to get into it because we hadn't been talking about all these guys. We just always talk about our mock draft, and we usually just do a 4-round mock. We take the best guy, wide receiver, in the 1st round and call it a day, and we don't talk about all these other guys. So I thought that was a lot of fun, Jake, and I just feel like we're in good position to do something special on draft night. And again, I'm going to ask the channel again. First of all, please give us a little love and hit that like button if you're here. Share out the Rush Hour show. We'd love to get more people. And also, don't forget about our Discord. It's a lot of fun, a lot of good conversations going on. A lot of people bring in breaking news, and we got Chiefs fans in there. We got fans from anywhere. We love all fan bases. And we got Dolphins fans in there. We got Jets fans in there. Good stuff. So
Pats fans.
We got a Pat fan in there as well. So Jake, good show. Thank you. I'm always amazed because you do watch a lot of college football and how much you retain. Like I know
I just wish
you just absorb this like a sponge.
I appreciate that, Mike. I wish I could have put it towards something a little bit better, but hey, I love enlightening you all, and I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for filling me in where I was going a little blank at times. Trey and Weston and Roy, Trek reviewer as well. We appreciate the hell out of you guys. Seriously, it's awesome. And yes, Weston is the breaking news guy, especially in Chiefs Kingdom. Not a lot that's leaked out of Chiefs Kingdom, but Weston, for whatever reason, he seems to have it.
Yeah, I like I like that. Weston, he must get up super early. I know he's in the Midwest, right? Or
He's in
mid.
Kansas. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think he wakes up. I don't know Weston because when I wake up here, I'm like, holy cow, Weston's the first one in the chat. I don't know if you're
He
waking up at
doesn't sleep, man.
3 in the morning. I
Weston,
think he
do you
was.
sleep? I do want to know. Do you
Yeah,
sleep?
that's right. Because there was a night I got up early. It was like 3 in the morning here. He was already up or something like that. It was around 2 of my time. I couldn't sleep. And he was out there in the Discord chatting it up with me a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, proud of the Yukon
How about
Huskies.
it?
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, dynasty.
Back to back. Yeah. You know what's cool too about that? So Dan Hurley, I believe he was an assistant coach for UB at a time, or maybe he wasn't with UB. I know Bobby Hurley was the head coach at UB, and they faced off against each other in maybe the round of 64 or the round of 32 in March Madness. This is like maybe 5-6 years ago, but a lot of bloodlines there. He went up against Nate Oates in the Final Four. Nate Oates, former University of Buffalo basketball coach too. So just cool to see guys like that, go out and get chips. So love to see it. Back to back.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a good game. I didn't watch a lot of men's in the tournament. Believe it or not, I watched a lot of the ladies. I mean,
It
Caitlin
was
Clark is
more
just
highly
been,
viewed than
yeah.
men's. Yeah.
I mean, she's changed the game and maybe going to put more focus on the WNBA, which would be great. I used to watch the WNBA, give them some love. But then, always I watch a lot of NBA as well. And as I'm like struggling for time, like I don't have a lot of time these days, so I have to pick and choose. But I can tell you that I'm going to be keeping an eye on Caitlin Clark because what she did in college. And did you see the South Carolina coach at the end? She won, but she gave that speech and she gave a lot of credit to Caitlin Clark. It was amazing. So if you checked
Oh,
out
that's
that
great.
it's a
No,
little
I didn't
short
see it.
out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was so cool. Her team won, but she gave a lot of credit to Caitlin Clark for what she's done for the game. So I'm super excited to see what she does in the WNBA. She's projected to be the number 1 pick overall. So Good stuff. So that's it, buddy. Good stuff there. Right at the rush hour and a half.
Not bad. Not bad. It's actually a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. I was like, this is definitely going to be a 2-hour show, but here we are. I mean, we can make it one, but
we could for sure. There's other guys we can talk about, but as you said, the top 20, we've got options, guys. We got options, girls, if you're out there. I don't know what we're going to do in the first round. It's going to be very interesting. Trade up, trade down, stay at 28. I don't have a clue what Bean's going to do. I do think it's going to be wide receiver with the first pick, wherever it is, whether we trade back and move up. It's either going to be wide receiver or DT or edge with the first pick. That's what I'm thinking. It's got to be one of those three.
How would you feel about Tyler Newman, safety out of Minnesota, in the first round, Mike? Wouldn't that be a total?
Yeah.
Probably something none of us are expecting.
I mean,
or like Cooper DeJean. I've seen that too now being mocked to us.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. Bean has done it before.
Yeah. Yeah, he has.
It will be a little disappointing if we stay up because we're going to be live all first round and they move down.
Yeah, I know it. My gut's telling me he moves up. I have a feeling he'll do it 2 years in a row. He moved up last year for Dalton Kincaid. If he sees a weapon for Josh Allen out there and he doesn't have to move up that much, or maybe he will move up that much, he's going to go get him. I think Brandon Bean, this is his time. It's his time.
I can see him moving up a little bit, Jake, not giving up too much because I still want us to have that second round pick. If he moves up the board, I mean, we don't have a third. So, if he can give up one of the fourths that we have, I'm okay if they'll take it. Not giving up too much draft capital. I mean, I like what, I'm a little bummed that Brian Thomas Jr. is now being seen taken, within the top 15.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think we move up that far. I think we could move up around 20, right around there, 19, 20, without giving up too much. But we'll see. It's going to be a fun night. Can't wait. We are T minus 15 days and counting.
It's crazy. Crazy. Yeah.
Like the Chiefs draft on edge or something in the first round.
Yeah. It's you just don't know. You don't know, man. Yeah. I love it. I love the spontaneity too with our GMs. Yeah. It's just sometimes the most random stuff that you don't expect. And I say that same thing with the Chiefs too. Like they've done it a few times, but it always seems to be the right pick for you guys. Not so much for us. Hopefully we're trending in the right direction.
Well, you know what? They had a 1-year rental in Rashee Rice. And it worked out. So Hey,
True.
you can say that maybe wasn't the character's not there, and he may not be on the team much longer, but they needed
Yeah.
him this last year, and they're just magicians with who they take. And I think it's going to be interesting to see who the Bills and the Chiefs take. I think they both go out wide receivers, honestly.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Now, Mike, one last question for you. So, say Brian Thomas is there, he's still available at like pick 16 or 17. There's a couple teams out there that could potentially take a receiver within those next few picks. Are you trading up? Let's say the trade offer would need to be our first rounder at 28, and then next year's one of the two next year's second rounder picks.
Oh, if
Would you
that's
do
what
that?
it is, I would take it absolutely because
Okay,
we got
me
that
too.
extra second rounder next year. I'm definitely down for that. And
Yep.
again, I think he is kind of that that top tier. He's part of that top tier. I think
Yeah, I
there's
agree.
four guys, what you consider the top tier there. Slight drop off. I don't think there's a huge drop off after that, but yeah, I would go up if that was the deal, Jake. We can make, and I'm not giving up too much more in the I keep my second this year. Um, I'm just bummed that we don't like. Is there any way you see us getting a third somehow without trading back? I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could pair a couple fourth rounders together and move up to get a third, but then you lose your fourth rounders too. So it's like that's tough. Or you package like one of next year's picks and see if you can move up this year too to get a third rounder.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. We certainly enjoyed doing it with you guys, and appreciate you out there. And we'll see you, Jake and I will see you Sunday night, same time on the rush hour, 9 o'clock Eastern and 6 o'clock Pacific. Until then, stay safe, have a great time, and
Go
see you in
Bills.
the Discord. Get over in the Discord. Try get the link. It's right there in the show. Free. Absolutely free. See you guys. Go
Go
Bills.
Bills.